Welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore the moments that shape who we have become. Today guest is Noah Mail, host of podcast Led Avenue, a journalism graduate from Auburn University, and powerful voice for mental health awareness. Noah has faced deep struggling with anxiety and depression from a very young age, but instead of staying silent, he chose to speak up. Today, he uses his platform to tell the truth, sharing the journey, and reminding others that their mental health does not define them. No, it's really a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I can't wait to get into our conversation today.
Yeah, thank you. So, Noah, what were some of the challenges and choices that shape you into who you have become today?
The main one was my depression battle. I had a very severe depression journey when I was 13. I started showing signs of depression when I was 13 years old, and I didn't get diagnosed until the following year when I was 14. And during that time was a really struggle time for me. I was really struggling with school, family. I was having a lot of personal issues happening with the parents back home. It was just a multitude of things that were happening and going on. And when I was at school, I hung around a really bad crowd. It was the typical, didn't really care about school. They kind of would goof off and get in trouble all the time. So I hung out with that crowd, and some of their habits and behavior kind of rubbed off on me. I started to kind of be a little rebellious and not really focus and really care about school at that time. I decided that I didn't want to study or do anything in the past or anything at that time. So I thought, I don't really care about my grades. Of course, my mom was the first to notice that something was completely off and not right with me at the time. And during this time, I actually also had a severe porn addiction at the time. I found that very blindly and then was immediately addicted to it because it was just like a slew of visuals I'd never seen before. And she caught me one day watching it, and then for 2 hours, I just basically vented to her and told her everything that was going on. And she said, okay, we are going to go to the doctor and we're going to get this sorted out. My doctor immediately diagnosed me with depression. He said, yeah, it's no doubt in my mind that you have it. And then since then, it's just been kind of an everlasting battle with depression. And that's kind of the start of how my mental health kind of began.
So, you have actually spoken about feeling like an outcast at times, and how did those experiences impact your confidence and sense of identity?
Being an outcast is not fun at all in the slightest. I just felt just alone. I had besides my mom and my grandparents, I had really no support from my fellow peers at school. They could have cared less if something would have happened to me, if something didn't happen. I felt like a ghost and was just a vapor that they were breathing in and were just constantly breathing out. I floated around just mindlessly. They didn't really pay any attention to me. So being an outcast really made me just feel so alone. And I couldn't talk to them about anything. That there were some things that I was going through that, you don't want to really ask your parent to go through. This is more like friend your age that your kind of fellow peers, they may be going through the same thing. And you could kind of bounce back off between them to try to get advice and try to figure it out together and get through it together. But with me having the no support, I was not able to have that luxury. I kind of heard some of the things that I had always wanted to know just from them talking regularly in normal conversation. But if it was a thing of like, if I asked it, it would have just been white noise to them.
Wow, so that must have really been difficult. Being that not having friends, not having more like someone you could actually relate with, apart from your mom and actually grandma, and that's really a whole lot. So COVID affected many people deeply. How did that particular season affect you mentally and emotionally? There was a time where things felt overwhelming. What happened that actually shifted you from feeling silent to becoming someone who speaks boldly about mental health?
The COVID pandemic for me was, I think, kind of for everyone, was just a really difficult time for everyone, whether you were personally going through it or you knew a friend that was going through it. Everyone, I think, suffered from depression or some kind of sadness during that time. For me, I went through a huge kind of physical change. Earlier before the pandemic had started, I got diagnosed with anxiety in March. I think about a month or a few weeks before the pandemic was considered like a statewide or like a nationwide crisis where we had to go on lockdown and everything. I got diagnosed with anxiety at that point, and later in the year, I ended up getting COVID myself, even though I was safely wearing a mask. I kind of social distanced from everyone, didn't even really leave the house. So how I came in contact with COVID was still kind of we don't know. But I had the long form of COVID. I had it for 6 months. I had it to where I could not taste or smell anything. I didn't have the typical normal symptoms of fever, chills, cold, kind of the more physical exhaustion type symptoms that make you sick. The first semester when I went to college, they were doing kind of like temperature checks, and they would do the thermometer thing, and they kind of would scan you, and if you didn't have a fever, you were given a wristband. Well, I was able to come in every time at that point not knowing that I had COVID. So I was this kind of a walk-in bomb, this hazard, walking around, people not knowing that I had COVID. And that was the most frustrating part, was I had it for 2 months and didn't even know about it. They did a COVID test when I first went to the doctor, and of course the COVID test came back negative. Well, apparently it was a defective test. They did blood work and actually found COVID cells in my blood that showed that I actually had COVID this whole time. I think about March or April of 2021 was when I first gained my sense of smell or taste back. But during that time, my depression just was like, decided to reappear again. It made me more anxious now. My anxiety really ticked up during that time, even at a time when it was not really, it wasn't really controlled. It was just like I was still suffering from anxiety at that time severely, but this really just kind of took it over to the next level. And it took a long time to just get back to where I was. I lost so much weight because I just didn't want to eat during that time, because there was just no point in eating or drinking anything. So I was like, there's just no point. So I lost a lot of weight, and I actually had lost a lot of weight prior to that too, with my anxiety diagnosis at the time. So it was just kind of a backlash of like all the hard work that I had done earlier in the year was just kind of a slap to the face, and was what was the point? So. And COVID had a lot of after effects on me too. It really screwed up my immune system for a while. It took a long time for my immune system to get back to, I would say, levels. I mean, after that, I got sick easily. Easily, I could have a cold every other week. So it hit me hard, probably harder than most people. But I think with the amount of mental health issues I was going with on at the time, I think it also had an effect and cause of why it was so severe.
Wow, that was really a whole lot. Yeah, I'm glad that despite all of it, you are still here today, heal and happy. Yeah. I think to understand it's amazing. You actually more like have 3 podcasts and speak openly about your journey. Why was it important for you to turn your pain into a platform?
I wanted my voice heard. I was so tired of being kept under the rug, of being quiet. I was done with it. So I thought, what's a way for me to have my voice heard and be able to get a lot of this anger out? And it was through podcasting. I knew about podcasting since 2019, and about 2021 or 22, I started having interest in, I want to wake up and do a podcast. Of course, I had no knowledge about podcasts at the time. I didn't know like good microphones, what could be good hosting, how to get it posted and everything. So it was just, it was a big thing that I wanted to do, but there was a lot of research I had to also conduct. I was close to launching it multiple times, and then personal stuff kept getting in the way. And then last year, finally got the courage or had the time, and was able to finally get the podcast up and running, and was launched. And I find it very therapeutic. There have been so many times where I felt just at ease, and I felt healed, because I was actually able to get a lot of this anger out. It was kind of like, I'd done therapy at that point. I had been going to therapy off and on at this time for about 3 years, and had psychiatrist for about 2.5, 3 years as well. And it was just kind of a slap to the face of, you go to all these therapy appointments and put a lot of money down, but yet this was free therapy for me. And I feel so much better. It was just like, I could have just done this and skipped therapy and waste all the money trying to go to therapy to get it fixed.
Yeah.
But I have to thank therapy as well, because therapy really did help. But I thought, of all the times, it's not never been this rewarding. And I finally just told my story on the podcast and got it shared, and now it's out there for people that want to listen. I don't have to feel like I don't have to rush people and force them to try to listen to me. It's out there for them to find, and they can listen to it if they want to. I can be myself, trying to be like, listen to what I have to say. It was so beneficial, and I know other people go through it or go through that pain as well of not being heard and not being seen. And so I wanted to be the first one to kind of open up and say, you don't have to stay silent forever. You do not have to stay silent and keep all these thoughts to yourself. That you can open up and share this, that there are people that will listen.
Yeah, amazing. I think at the point when you just make reference of the fact that it was very therapeutic for you, it just speaks volumes to the fact that sometimes when we are going through a whole lot and no one knows about it, sometimes just saying it, just having conversation around it, actually remove this burden, and owing to the fact that we now know that we are not alone, that we are hard, and to have platforms that actually more like get to do this. And it's really amazing. And starting what you do. So how has your mental health journey influenced the way you approach journalism and storytelling?
It's made me be a little bit more vocal and open about it. I knew that as a journalist too, that I'd have to do a lot of talking and would have to do a lot of presentations and everything. And when I first started journalism, I had like the visual mindset of, or the typical mindset of, okay, there's going to be a lot of papers to write. You're going to have to talk in front of the class probably 500 times a semester. But it didn't really work out that way. It's been more, I felt like I kind of got like the easy front of journalism. I didn't really have to write a lot of papers. There wasn't really a lot of speaking assignments that I had to do. So it didn't, when I transferred to Auburn, it had more of the okay, this is what I expected. But still at the same time, I didn't write nearly as much as I thought, but this talking in front of the class and actually having to speak up and chat, that was kind of like, this is what I expected. This is what I was going into journalism thinking it was going to be like. So mentally, it's helped me kind of break some of my mental stress that I was going through at the time. I would get nervous over every little thing when I first got my anxiety diagnosis, and with a mixture of the medicine that I'm taking now and kind of practicing, I've kind of broke speaking. Mentally, my mental health has not really affected my career at this point. And for school, it has not affected speaking in front of people, which I've not had to speak in front of a huge crowd yet. I'm pretty sure in the future I might have a different answer in the future to that. But as of right now, from the audiences that I have spoken in front of, my mental health and mentally, it's been really calm and actually been very much tame.
Yeah, amazing. I think it's the fact that getting to have this conversation, just what you say, is therapeutic, and the more you get to do it, the more sense, actually more like the more sense of belonging, and the fact that you are connected through to various other persons having the same similar issues. Yeah, and I think that actually more like get to remove the pressure of a whole lot of stuff that are unspoken before now, and that was really amazing. So for someone who actually feel like they are not good enough, or feel alone in their struggle, what will you want them to hear right now?
I want people to know that if you are going through something similar to me, to not bottle it up. For the years that I had the no support and no friends that I needed to have, I kept it bottled up. And when I tell you that it eats you up, it will eat you up. And it'll be very harsh to really come back, and it'll bite you in the butt, essentially. So I want people to be more vocal about it. There are people out there that will listen to what you have to say. You just have to, it takes time to find that perfect crowd and find that perfect support system. And once you have it, I will take time, and don't if you are suffering through it, therapy for me has 100% been a huge key.
Yeah.
Now I know that therapy can be expensive as well, and it's just one of those things I wish it wasn't as expensive as it is. I understand that they need to make a living off of that, but if you're able to afford therapy and have a therapist at a good price, highly recommend you go to that. And your doctor, local physician, might could also help you with recommendations on that as well. But I just want people to know, don't be scared to open up and share your opinions. It's better to open up and to have that all those thoughts out in the world than have them bottled up, because it will silently kill you a little bit internally, and it will really drag you down.
Yeah, yeah, amazing, amazing. Oh, so when you think about the phrase once a fighter, always a fighter, what does that mean to you now?
That quote, it just kind of really sums up how I've gotten to this point today. It's to me, during that time when I was really down and was suicidal and everything, I was able to fight through it. And it's one of those things of like, if you are able to fight through something, you can fight through anything. And so the quote, once a fighter, always a fighter, to me is a reminding thing of, I have fought once, I will fight through it again, and I will never, never not fight through it.
Amazing, amazing. Once a fighter. Yeah, thank you, Noah. How can they reach out to you, and where's the best platform?
You can go to my website, noahspodcast.com. All the information about all the shows that I do. My podcasts are available on wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm on Apple and Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora, Amazon, Audible. It's really everywhere, so wherever you get podcasts from, Lethal Venom. But you can find all that through my website. And for my socials, you can find and follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok at Lethal Venom Podcast. And then you can also find the podcast on Facebook and YouTube at Noah's Podcast. And again, all that information will be on my website.
Before you go, last question. So how do you take care of your mental health today, and what habits help you to stay grounded even now?
It took a lot of time to figure this out, but for me, music has been number one in my life of saving grace. I can put a song on from an artist that I really like and a song that I'm really enjoying at the time, and it helps. I've also have seen writing and sometimes journaling can really help. Now, it doesn't. Some of this will not work for everyone. Just really reading has also helped, and really the talking to a friend and my friends that I have now has really helped me. But music has, and even podcasting, just being able to come up. If I'm feeling sad, I could probably create a podcast episode where I just air out what I'm feeling like at the time, and I feel like it would really help. So that's really all. Those are the methods that I have used that have really helped with my mental health and how to keep me stable.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Noah. Yeah, your story just is a reminder that even in season of doubt and darkness, there is strength that is being built. Your journey just shows us that speaking up can become someone else's lifeline. That is fight for your future. It's always worth it. Yeah, and it's really amazing having you on the show. Noah.
Thank you so much for having me and having me share my story. It was a fun time and an honor, so I appreciate it. Thank you so much.